y'all, welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Taya and this is Taya's Turning Pages. So by the title of today's video, you can tell that this is going to be a fall book haul, y'all. So excited because I have wanted all of these books that are currently sitting over here for quite some time now. I've had them sitting in my Amazon cart for a while and I decided to, you know what, treat myself and pull the trigger. And I'm so happy that I finally have all of these books because I just love the covers, or I just love the author, or I just wanted them on my shelf, you know? It's just one of those things. So I do try to use my library as much as possible, but my library unfortunately doesn't really have a lot of new titles all of the time or super quickly like compared to other people's libraries. But I do try to use my iPad and read from the Kindle app as much as possible, but there's nothing like a physical book. I'm sorry, I'm one of those people that truly prefers a physical book over an e-reader, just because I don't know, it just hits different. Like, I don't know how to describe it. If you prefer physical copies over digital copies, then you understand where I'm coming from. Like, we see each other. But anyways, I have a lot of books to get through, so I'm gonna stop rambling and just get to them. So I'm not going to go in any particular order. I did try to separate these books by genre, and mostly what I got is thrillers and romance because that's pretty much my bread and butter. I'm going to start with thrillers first. The first book that I have here is Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson. So I mentioned in my Haley Ween TBR video, I actually own, I'm pretty sure, all of Tiffany D. Jackson's books, including her new one, which I will show a little bit later in this haul. But I have never read anything by Tiffany D. Jackson before. Isn't that so bad, you guys? I don't know why I have all of her books but have not read anything by her yet, but I always knew that I was going to get around to her work and give it a try. I just feel like me and her are gonna connect. When it comes to her writing style, I always knew I was going to give her books a try. I just didn't know when, but when I went on this book shopping spree, I just decided to buy the rest of her books so that way I have them and I can just start reading them at my leisure. So I know Allegedly is one of her most like critically acclaimed books and people love this one. I think this one is on like a banned book list somewhere, which is so annoying and unfortunate, but anyways, so this story actually follows a black woman named Mary who is unfortunately accused of killing this white baby that was under her care, and I think she does end up getting convicted. I think either investigators or someone ends up revisiting the case and realizes that maybe Mary wasn't the person who ended up committing this crime, and the events unfold and the story takes off from there. So that's pretty much the general idea I have of this book. I don't want to know anything else because I just feel like this is one of those books where I just need to pick it up and read it and let myself get immersed in the story, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I cannot wait to dive into this one at some point. The next book that I have here is another Tiffany D. Jackson novel, and it is Monday's Not Coming. So this is another one of her critically acclaimed novels, and it actually won the Coretta Scott King Award. So I think this story actually follows two characters, one named Monday and one named Claudia. And Claudia and Monday are best friends. They are inseparable, and unfortunately Monday ends up going missing, and Claudia is trying to figure out what happened to her best friend. She's asking around and no one's really giving her an answer. Everyone's giving her the runaround, and she's just so confused as to why nobody seems to care that Monday is missing. And so I'm assuming you follow Claudia throughout this story trying to piece together what really happened to Monday and if there's something else bigger going on, like a cover-up, etc., etc. So I know that this story obviously has the suspense and thrilling nature of someone going missing, but I do think that Tiffany D. Jackson incorporated commentary in here about what it's like for young black girls and women to go missing, and how a lot of the times the media and the public just dismisses us and doesn't really care. I know that this is going to be a really heavy-hitting book. I know it's going to be really sad and really poignant, but I cannot wait to give it a read soon because I just need to know what goes on in the story, and I really want to know how this is going to affect me. I do know that this is heavy on the trigger warnings, like really heavy on the trigger warnings, so definitely make sure you look them up. But I still wanted to get this book and to have it in my collection because I knew I was going to want to read it at some point, and I can't wait. And the last Tiffany D. Jackson book that I have in this haul is her newest release, and it is The Weight of Blood. And right here on the front it says, "Uneasy lies the head that wears the tiara." Ooh, that just sounds like it's going to be so good. So I have told you guys before that I do not like gore, I do not like blood, but this story intrigued me and I knew I had to pick it up because it is a Carrie retelling. And even though I don't like blood and all of that, I love Carrie. I don't know what it is about that movie. I like the original with Sissy Spacek, and I like the remake with Chloe Grace Moretz. I'm sorry, I know a lot of people did not like the remake, but I did. I am a fan. I liked both. I actually never read Carrie by Stephen King. I need to do that at some point, but I really love the movies. So once I heard that Tiffany D. Jackson was coming out with this book and it was going to be a Carrie retelling, I knew I was going to add it to my cart immediately, and that's exactly what I did. So this story follows a young biracial woman named Madison, and Maddie actually attends this small town Georgia high school, and I think Maddie is one of the only minorities at this school, but I don't think the students at her school know that she's biracial because Maddie is white passing, and so she's able to get through school without people really like caring about her identity and things like that, until it is revealed that she is biracial. And now Maddie becomes the target of a lot of, I think, bullying, like intense bullying. A lot of these students are inflicting violence against Maddie, and I think all of these events end up going viral somehow on social media. And so now the school is trying to clean up their image. And so to really help with this image building, I think one of the popular girls at school has a boyfriend who is a quarterback, and she tells her boyfriend to invite Maddie to their prom and go as her date. Maddie, I think, ends up accepting. Similar to Carrie, Maddie ends up accepting. She's really happy about, I think, going to prom. But of course there is an ulterior motive, and I'm sure these people are going to pull a prank on Maddie. But what they don't realize is that Maddie has something in store for them, and she's gonna get them back, and the story takes off from there. So from that synopsis, you can definitely pick out the elements that are very reminiscent of Carrie, and I'm just really excited to read this one, you guys. I also love the fact that Tiffany D. Jackson incorporates social commentary into her books. This one is going to be no different, and I can't wait to see Maddie enact her revenge. I'm sorry, I love a good revenge story. I love a good revenge plot, so I know I'm gonna eat this book up. And also look at the back, like, do y'all see that? The cover art for this book is insane. I love it. Like, I absolutely love it. And on the back here it says, it was tradition that the outgoing seniors of Springville High converged into a caravan downtown on the way to their respective dances. The townspeople would line the Main Street parade route in lawn chairs to catch glimpses of the partygoers in their fine gowns and tuxedos. No one knew it would be the last time that most of them would be seen alive. Ooh, love it. Love to see it. The next book that I have here is My Sister, the Serial Killer. I know that this book came out a while ago. I'm pretty sure it came out last year or the year before, and I kept seeing it everywhere on Bookstagram. So on the back here it says, Corey's sister, Ayula, is many things. The favorite child, the beautiful one, possibly sociopathic. And now Ayula's third boyfriend in a row is dead. Stabbed through the heart with Ayula's knife. Corey's practicality is the sister's saving grace. She knows the best solutions for cleaning blood. Bleach, bleach, and more bleach. The best way to move a body, wrap it in sheets like a mummy, and she keeps Ayula from posting pictures to Instagram when she should be mourning her missing boyfriend. Not that she gets any credit. Corey has been in love with a kind, handsome doctor at the hospital where she works. She dreams of the day when he will realize that she's exactly what he needs. But when he asks Corey for Ayula's phone number, she must reckon with what her sister has become and how far she's willing to go to protect her. I might read this one in November, but I also might save this for a secret reading vlog. I'm not 100% sure yet, but either way, this book will be getting read some point soon, because that synopsis gripped me. I didn't even know that that's what the full thing was, so I'm really happy that I have this. The next book that I have here is When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. I have seen this book make its rounds on Bookstagram and Booktube for so long. I finally decided to pick it up, and I should have picked it up sooner, to be honest. I don't know why I was hesitant on getting it, but I am really happy that I have it now. It sounds like it just checks off all of the boxes that I have when picking up a new thriller, especially. The story follows a woman named Sydney who was born and raised in Brooklyn, but unfortunately her neighborhood is going through gentrification, and so Sydney decides to channel her frustration into a walking tour and finds an unlikely and unwanted assistant and one of the new arrivals to the block, her neighbor Theo. And so Sydney and Theo end up doing a deep dive into the history of this neighborhood, and it quickly becomes a dizzying descent into paranoia and fear. So their neighbors may not have moved to the suburbs after all, and the push to revitalize the community may be more deadly than advertised. So this is obviously going to have social horror involved. I also love the cover art, like the blue and the yellow. It just looks stunning. The next book that I have here is The Perfect Marriage by Carrie Baldwin. And so this one was a wild card for me because I was just browsing on Amazon and I was just looking for different books and thrillers that I could add to my wish list and my cart, and I stumbled upon this one, and this just sounds really interesting. I think this one might be independently published, or at least a publishing house might be a bit smaller than like Penguin or St. Martin's Press. This story actually follows the couple, and I don't know what the woman's name is because it's not on the back here, but she is married to a man named Zach, and her and Zach seem like they have the perfect marriage. They are really in love, and they end up having a daughter. But once their daughter is born, the wife starts to notice differences in Zach's behavior and personality. He starts to become a bit more controlling. So the wife is devastated at the fact that Zach has changed and that their marriage is no longer what it used to be. And in the midst of all of this, Zach actually ends up having an affair, and his mistress ends up dead. And so now Zach is being accused of his mistress's murder. So now the wife has to make a decision on if she wants to stand by her man or watch him crash and burn, because if she watches him crash and burn, she'll obviously be free of this controlling and abusive marriage. But Zach knows something about our female MC that we don't, and if this secret gets out, it could destroy her. So now you follow her on this journey of standing by Zach's side, but also plotting on how she can escape this marriage and Zach alive. This reminds me of The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose, and that's honestly why I picked this book up, because I loved The Perfect Marriage. I thought the book was so entertaining and truly a psychological thriller if I've ever read one, but it was also disturbing and dark, especially towards the end. So I just really liked that book, and once I saw this one pop up, I just felt like I had the same vibe. So I wanted to give it a read and to see if it is similar to that book and if I'll enjoy it. So the next book that I have here is They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. So I'm really late to this train, to be honest. Like, I feel like everybody has already read this book and has moved on, but I am sorry. I just now got caught up, but I am finally here and ready to read this book. The only thing that I know about this novel, it is considered a good for her story because the main character, whose name is Dr. Clark, is a professor at this university, but she's also a murderer. And her victims are men who end up committing violence against women. Obviously, you follow her and her crimes throughout this story, but there's also another character that gets thrown into the mix, and her name is Carly. And Carly unfortunately ends up getting assaulted one night, and so now Carly wants to enact her own plan of revenge on her assaulter. And I think her and Dr. Clark end up teaming up to try to take this guy down. So I am here for that, okay? Like, this just sounds like this is going to be right up my alley because feminism. I just feel like this is going to be really good, really gripping, really thrilling, and I just really like this cover too. I've seen so many different variations of They Never Learn. I would say that this one is definitely my favorite. Looking forward to reading this one. I hope I enjoy it. And the next book that I have here is All Her Little Secrets by Wanda M. Morris. This is another book that I have seen make its rounds on Booktube in particular, and I feel like this book has a lot of mixed reviews, so I am really curious to see where I fall on the spectrum, if I end up liking it or not. But this story actually follows a Black woman who is an attorney, and she works at this predominantly white law firm, and she is just going through the motions of being the only Black attorney at her law firm. And one day she ends up walking into her firm, she goes into her boss's office, and she notices that he has been murdered. And so now our main character is spiraling. She's trying to figure out what happened, why did this happen. But in the midst of all of this chaos, she actually gets promoted to her boss's position. And of course she is like happy that she's finally being recognized for her work and that she got promoted, because she felt like she wasn't even being seen at her law firm. But she's also suspicious because she's like, wait a minute, our boss just died. Why did I get promoted so quickly? Like, what's really going on? What's tea? And I'm assuming that there's something bigger going on, something more sinister, and the story probably spirals from there. So again, like all of these other books, really excited to read this one at some point. I think that this is going to be a book that I feature in another secret reading vlog. All right, we're almost done with the thrillers. We have 3 more left here, and I'm just going to get this one out of the way because I think this is more of like a cozy mystery, but it is My Killer Vacation by Tessa Bailey. So I know that summer has already passed at this point, so I probably won't read this until next summer, to be completely honest, but it was already in my cart and I wanted to order it because you guys know I love Tessa Bailey down. She is one of my favorite authors. It Happened One Summer is still my favorite romance book to this day, but I wanted to get another book of hers and add it to my collection. And I remember when this book first debuted that I was really excited for it, and I swore I pre-ordered it, but clearly I didn't because it never came. So I ordered this off of Amazon and I'm just really happy that I have it now. But like I said, I think this is a cozy mystery, which I'm not really a big fan of. I do not like cozy mysteries in the slightest, but I'm willing to give it a try because it's Tessa Bailey. The only thing that I know about this is that this follows a woman and a man, and the man is actually a bounty hunter. I think that there's a murder that happens in the town that they're in, and so they decide to team up to try to solve it, and that's pretty much all I know. I've heard a lot of people say that the murder mystery aspect of this falls a bit flat because this really does just focus on the steam and the romance, and honestly that's fine with me. So the next book that I have here is So Happy For You by Celia Lasky. So I saw this book so much on Bookstagram that I knew I had to pick it up because I love this cover and I love the title because I say this all of the time, but I just love how this book looks, and I love the pink, of course. So this is a thriller that is set at a wedding, and one thing about me, I love a thriller that is set at a wedding. I don't know what it is, but something about this joyous, happy, ceremonious, and harmonious occasion taking place being the backdrop of like a murder mystery, it's just that juxtaposition, ooh, it gets me every single time. So I'm actually just going to read the synopsis here because it's pretty short, but it says, a wedding weekend spirals out of control. Robin and Ellie have been best friends since childhood. When Robin came out, Ellie was there for her. When Ellie's father died, Robin had her back. But when Ellie asked Robin to be her maid of honor, she is reluctant. A queer academic, Robin is dubious of the elaborate wedding rituals now sweeping the nation, which go far beyond champagne toasts and a bouquet toss. But loyalty wins out, and Robin accepts. Yet, as the wedding weekend approaches, a series of ominous occurrences lead Robin to second-guess her decision. It seems that everyone in the bridal party is out to get her, perhaps even Ellie herself. So as y'all hear by that synopsis, some shit is gonna go down at the wedding, and I am really excited to dive into this one. And the last thriller that I have here is All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. For those of you who do not know, Ashley Flowers is the co-host of the famous podcast Crime Junkies, and I have been listening to Crime Junkies for years at this point, like literal years. And I remember when it started out really small, and to see what it's grown into today is really, really cool. I just really love Ashley's narration, and I just love the back and forth conversations that her and Britt, her other co-host, has on Crime Junkies. I haven't listened to it in a while, to be honest, because I don't commute into work anymore. I actually work from home, so I don't really have that much time to listen to podcasts like I used to, but when I do have the time, I turn on Crime Junkies with the quickness. So I don't know anything about this synopsis, but I think it follows the same formula that most thrillers follow. So there is a young woman who ends up getting murdered in her small hometown, and unfortunately her murder goes unsolved for years until someone in her town decides to take it upon themselves to try to solve her case and bring her justice. But while she's digging for more information to try to uncover the truth, she ends up becoming a target herself. So it's definitely one of those stories. I will read pretty much any thriller. I'm not that picky when it comes to my thrillers, and even though they might follow the same formula, there still might be something different. There might be that twist that you weren't expecting. And like I said, I really do like Ashley Flowers, so I wanted to support and to see how her books are in comparison to her podcast. Has all of that true crime podcast experience giving you enough guidance to write a good thriller? I don't know, we will see. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the last pile of books, and like I said, most of these are romances with I think some literary fiction and Greek mythology sprinkled in. So the first book that I'm going to show here is Circe by Madeline Miller. So y'all, I finally have Circe. It's about time, okay, because I read the Song of Achilles last year, fell in love with it, gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. As you can see back here, I do have the special edition of the Song of Achilles because that book and Patroclus and Achilles mean everything to me. So when I found out that Madeline Miller had another book that was similar to Achilles, like it was a Greek mythology retelling, but it followed a goddess, I was like, oh, I'm definitely gonna need that then. So this is a retelling, and I guess it's from the Odyssey. I have never read the Odyssey or the Iliad. I just know that this does follow a goddess named Circe, and Circe is considered a strange child. She's not powerful like her mother, nor is she viciously alluring like her mother. So she turns to the world of mortals for companionship, and she discovers that she actually possesses power, and it's the power of witchcraft, which can transform rivals into monsters and menace the gods themselves. Once Zeus finds this out, he does feel threatened, and he decides to banish Circe to a deserted island. And while she's on this deserted island, she decides to hone her craft and her skills, and she also crosses paths with a lot of other famous figures in mythology, including Odysseus himself. But there is danger lurking around the corner for Circe, because I guess the streets start talking and people find out that Circe does have all of these magical powers, and she is a woman and alone essentially on this island. So all of these other gods and monsters decide to go to this island to try to, I guess, attack Circe. And so now Circe has to try to save herself and defend herself against all of these powers that be. So this story has also, I think, been coined as a feminist novel, and from that synopsis you can definitely tell that it is going to go in that direction, and I am here for it. I cannot wait to read the story of Circe and to see if I enjoy this one. I'm going to try my hardest to not compare this to the Song of Achilles because it's two totally different retellings, but that story was just so good. So I do have high hopes and high expectations for this one. I know I'm not going to be disappointed by the writing because Madeline Miller's writing is intoxicatingly beautiful, and I know it's going to be the same way in here too. So if I end up liking this one, I probably will get the special edition of this too and put it over there with the Song of Achilles, but for now we're gonna stick with this edition and see how this all goes. The next book that I have here is actually an ARC, and I'm not sure how this title is pronounced, so I apologize if I do mispronounce it, but I think it is called Maame. And this is by Jessica George, and I'm actually just going to read the synopsis since this is an ARC, and it doesn't publish until February 7th, 2023. So this is an ARC, y'all. I totally forgot that this actually doesn't even have the synopsis on the back. It is on this paper that I was sent by the publisher, I'm pretty sure. So right here it says, Maame details the life of Maddie, a young British Ghanaian woman, as she grapples with the unconventional family dynamics, the reality of friendship, and the unwieldy nature of grief. It's a later than average coming of age interspersed with new physical relationships and work-related turbulence, all while she learns to navigate this new phase of life, predominantly via her animated subconscious and funny anecdotes from strangers online. One of the stories within Maame details Maddie's reflection to the loss of her father, as well as the unexpected and incoherent journey grief takes her on. Another story within Maame is one so many of us have lived, a story about identity and what it means when it is not of your own making. Being a 25-year-old carer for her father suffering from Parkinson's disease takes up much of Maddie's world. It is an aspect that heavily influences her daily routine, her approach to her opportunity, and her friendships. The question then arises, who is Maddie without her father? What happens when the person you become is an identity constructed and then bestowed upon you by others? The cautious carer, the dutiful daughter, the savior sister, wipe those all away, and what rather, who is left? Wow, what a poignant and powerful synopsis. So this is definitely giving a women's literary fiction vibe, contemporary fiction vibe, and I do love those stories, and I do try to incorporate them throughout my TBRs from time to time. I don't read them as much as I used to, and I'm trying to get back into that. I probably will give this one a read soon, so that way I can try to ease my way back into the genre. So thank you again, St. Martin's Press, for sending this my way. The next book that I have here is Fool Me Once by Ashley Winstead. So this is another book that I've been seeing so many people talk about and rave about. Even non-romance readers said that they really enjoyed this book. So if they're saying that, then this must be good, because you guys know non-romance readers are the toughest critics, I feel like, for romance books. And it's a little absurd, but y'all know how it is. If you're a romance reader, then you already know the discourse. But the only thing that I know about this story is that it is a second chance romance, because right here it says second chances are for suckers. So on the back here it says, Lee Stone is a 21st century woman. She kicks butt at her job as a communications director at a women-run electric car company. That's better than Tesla, thank you. And after work she is stoner, drinking guys under the table and never letting any of them get too comfortable in her bed. That's because Lee's learned one big lesson: never trust men. 4 major heartbreaks set her straight, from her father cheating on her mom all the way to Ben Laterman in grad school, who wasn't actually cheating, but she could have sworn he was. So she reciprocated in kind. Right, Lee is not with the shits. Then Ben shows up 5 years later, working as a policy expert for the most liberal governor in Texas history, just as Lee is trying to get a clean energy bill rolling. Things get complicated and competitive as Lee and Ben are forced to work together. Tension builds just as old sparks reignite, fanning the flames for a romantic dust-up the sides of Texas. So this has a lot of elements that I know I'm going to enjoy. It does follow a character that works in the communications industry. I also work in the communications industry. I'm actually a social media manager for a company. Before I transitioned into social media, I also used to work as a public relations professional. So I know a lot about the communications industry and PR and social media. I just feel like I'm going to relate to Lee a lot in that regard. And I love when stories have that type of profession as one of the main focuses in the story, because again, it's really relatable. That's why I really enjoyed the X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon, because even though that followed broadcast journalism and radio, I still was able to identify and relate to the characters in that story, because I worked with journalists before. So it was just really, it was a good time is what I'm trying to say. Just know that I'm going to like that element. And I also really like the fact that Lee is one of those gals that really doesn't care about men's feelings, and she is kind of just like moving like how they move. I know that this is Ashley Winstead's first romance, and like I said, it's been getting a lot of praise. So that's really cool that she's not only successful in the thriller world, but also in the romance world. Like, okay, Double P, we see you. So yeah, I still haven't read In My Dreams I Hold a Knife yet. I know. I'm so late to the game. I have it on my iPad. I just haven't started it yet, but maybe I will do a reading vlog where I read that book and this book and see if I prefer her thrillers or if I prefer her romance or if I like both. Who knows? The next book that I have here has one of the most beautiful covers and colorways that I've ever seen, and it is called Funny You Should Ask by Alyssa Sussman. So y'all see this cover, like look at the red and the pink. I love it. I know it's giving Valentine's Day, but I love Valentine's Day. I love love, and I love the colors red and pink, especially together. So this is happiness in a cover for me. But this is another romance book, of course, and I think this one kind of has like the same vibes as maybe a contemporary romance. So think beach read, I guess, and think maybe Normal People by Sally Rooney, Conversations with Friends. Like that's what I'm getting whenever I look at this book and when I glanced at the synopsis. This story does follow a 20-something-year-old writer named Channing Horowitz, and she does feel stuck in her life while her former MFA classmates are nabbing high-profile book deals, and all she feels like she is doing is just churning out puff pieces, nothing really valuable or that she cares about. And then she's hired to write a profile of a movie star named Gabe, and he's her #1 celebrity crush and the latest James Bond. And all Channing wants to do is just keep her cool and nail the piece. She really wants to secure this interview, but what comes next proves to be life-changing in ways she never saw coming, because the interview actually turns into a whirlwind weekend, and Channing and Gabe end up getting closer than what they anticipated. And then 10 years later, Channing was actually married to someone else, but she ends up getting a divorce, and she decides to go back to LA to try to fulfill her career of becoming a successful writer. But when she gets back to LA, obviously her and Gabe cross paths, and I'm assuming they have to finally confront that weekend that they shared and figure out if that was just a one-night stand type of thing or if they could be something more. Like I said, it's giving that contemporary romance vibe, that women's literary fiction vibe. I can't wait to dive into this one at some point, and once again, we just have to appreciate the cover because it is giving. It truly is. All right, y'all, we're almost done. We have 3 more books left, and the next book that I have here is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. And I actually picked up this book because Gwen from Gwendolyn Kessinger here on Booktube was raving about this book when I participated in her August reading wrap-up live show, and she also just talks about it a lot in general, I think, like on her Bookstagram. So once I heard Gwen talking about it, I was like, all right, let me pick this up and see what this book is all about, because Gwen is really loving this book and I want to see if it's going to be the same for me. The only thing that I know about this book is that it does follow that trope of rich girl, poor guy, and they're obviously from different worlds and they don't know if they're going to be able to withstand all of these societal pressures and expectations that they have placed on them. And I think that the female MC is actually a bit older than the male MC. That's also a different take because I feel like we don't see that all of the time with romance books. I'm really excited to read this one. I'm not going to read the full synopsis because I just gave you guys a brief and basic and general idea of the story, but definitely recommend going on Goodreads if you want to know the entire thing. But yes, shout out to Gwen for recommending this book, and I really hope I enjoy it. All right, y'all, the second to last book that I have here is called Love Radio by Ebony Liddell. So I actually saw this book first on Bookstagram, and I saw a lot of my mutuals posting about this book and giving it great reviews. And once I saw the cover, I was sold because look at that. The color scheme, phenomenal, but we love the representation. Like, I love Black love, so I knew that I was going to pick this up. And when I went to Target, I actually saw it there, and this was the last copy, so I was really excited to find it, but also to know that there are other people picking up this book and giving it a read. So right here it says, Prince Jones is the guy who has all the answers, or so it seems. After all, at 17 he has his own segment on Detroit's popular hip-hop show Love Radio, where he dishes out advice to the brokenhearted. Prince has always dreamed of becoming a DJ and falling in love. Oh, I love when the male characters are like hopeless romantics. Oh, I'm gonna love this already. But being the main caretaker for his mother, who has multiple sclerosis, and his little brother means his dreams will stay just that. And the only romances in his life are the ones he hears about from his listeners. Until he meets Danny Ford. Danny isn't checking for anybody. She's focused on her plan: ace senior year, score a scholarship, and move to New York City to become a famous author. But her college essay keeps tripping her up, and acknowledging what's blocking her means dealing with what happened at that party a few months ago. And that's one thing Danny can't do. When the romantic DJ meets the ambitious writer, sparks fly. Prince is smitten, but Danny's not looking to get derailed. She gives Prince just 3 dates to convince her that he's worth falling for. 3 dates for the love expert to take his own advice and just maybe change 2 lives forever. Oh my gosh. That just sounds so wholesome, so cute, and so sweet, and I cannot wait to dive into this one. Even though it's a YA novel, this is still going to be really cute, really good, and of course it's probably going to have heavy-hitting themes because Danny did go through something at a party, and she's gonna have to work through those issues, so I cannot wait to see how this all plays out. Like I said, I love when the male characters are the hopeless romantics or are the sunshine, and the girl is like more so of the grump or like the cynical person when it comes to love, because it just switches it up. It switches it up and flips the story on its head, and it's just refreshing to read about. All right, y'all, the last book, thank goodness, because everybody's starting to wake up here in my apartment complex, so it's about to get really rowdy and really loud. So the last book that I have here is Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. So I have been wanting this book since it first came out, but I just never pulled the trigger because I have never read anything by Christina Lauren before, and I just didn't know if it would make sense for me to start with this book or to read one of their other books, which would be considered like a fan favorite. So like The Unhoneymooners, Love and Other Words. I think Love and Other Words is like their most popular, so I felt like I probably should have started with one of those, but this synopsis just pulls me in every single time I read it, so I just was like, F it, I'm gonna buy it and I'm gonna read this one, and this will be my first Christina Lauren novel. So in the flap here it says, growing up the daughter of notorious treasure hunter and absentee father Duke Wilder left Lily without much patience for the profession or much money in the bank. But Lily is nothing if not resourceful, and she now uses Duke's coveted hand-drawn maps to guide tourists on treasure hunts through the gorgeous Red Rock canyons of Utah. It pays the bills, but doesn't leave enough to fulfill her dream of buying back the beloved ranch her father sold years ago, and definitely not enough to deal with the sight of the man she once loved walking back into her life with a motley crew of friends ready to hit the trails. Frankly, Lily would like to take him out into the wilderness and leave him there. Leo Grady knows mirages were a thing in the desert, but they bravely left civilization when the silhouette of his greatest regret comes into focus in the flickering light of the campfire. Ready to leave the past behind him, Leo suddenly realizes he wants nothing more than to reconnect with his first and only love. Unfortunately, Lily Wilder is all business, drawing a clear line in the sand. It's never going to happen. But when the trip goes both horribly and hilariously wrong, the group wonders if maybe the legend of the hidden treasure wasn't a gimmick after all. There's a chance to right the wrongs of Duke's past and their own, but only if Lily and Leo can confront their history and work together. Alone under the stars in the isolated and dangerous mazes of the canyon land, Leo and Lily must decide whether they'll risk their lives and hearts on the adventure of a lifetime. Does that not sound like a good book, y'all? Like, why does this sound like the cutest romance book that I've ever heard? Come on. Come on. Like, it's a second chance romance. It's a borderline / mild enemies to lovers, and it has adventure elements wrapped up into it. I just think that this is going to be really interesting and really entertaining, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about like the treasure hunting aspect of it. And I know some people said that if you like Indiana Jones, then you'll probably like this book. I've never watched Indiana Jones, only like a few clips here and there, so I have a general understanding of the show and the movies and stuff, but I never actually sat down and watched it in full, so I can't really speak to that. But I do like movies and like books that do have like a treasure hunting element. I just think that I am going to like this book for those aspects alone. It does sound like it's going to be really cute, and I love the cover. So I actually lied, I do have another romance book here, but I don't have the physical copy, so that's why I forgot. It's still on its way to me because I think it's coming from like the UK, but it is called Until I Met You by Amber Rose Gill. Amber Rose Gill is actually the season 5 winner of Love Island, and I love Love Island, and I especially loved Amber's season 5, because it was so entertaining, so jam-packed with drama, and it was just quality reality TV. I genuinely think that season 5 was Love Island's peak. If we're being completely honest, I think it was their peak, because I just feel like the other seasons haven't been hitting the way that season 5 hit, okay? And Amber was actually one of my favorites from the show, so when I found out that she was coming out with her own romance novel, I knew I had to snatch it up with a quickness. Right here it says, will a tropical escape lead to a perfect romance? It was meant to be the holiday of a lifetime for Samantha, the launch of her travel blog, her best friend's wedding, and hopefully her own marriage proposal, until she finds herself on her way to Tobago, single. Disillusioned with his corporate job on Wall Street, Roman is starting afresh in Tobago. He doesn't need a distraction, especially a free-spirited travel blogger, but something about Samantha intrigues him. As romance blossoms, Roman and Samantha must learn to risk their hearts, but when secrets are revealed, their new relationship is put in jeopardy. Now Samantha and Roman must decide what they really want. They came to Tobago to find themselves, but could finding each other be what they needed all along? Ooh, that sounds so cute. That sounds so cute. I just love romance synopsises because they just always sound so wholesome, sweet, fun, and entertaining, and also laugh out loud. And I just feel like because Amber herself is hilarious, I follow her on Twitter, and like I said, I loved her on her season of Love Island. She is one of the funniest people that I have ever like seen, and I just feel like she's probably gonna have like her humor seep into this book, so I'm really excited about this. And the characters are diverse, so we love to see it. I'm just happy that I was able to support. So I might do a reading vlog with this as well as another book, because they actually do relate to one another in some way, so definitely stay tuned for that. I was supposed to film that a while ago, but it never happened. But I think now that I have this book on the way, and once I get it, I think it's gonna happen. All right, y'all, and those are all of the books that I have recently picked up from my local bookstore, as well as Barnes & Noble, as well as Amazon, Target, the list goes on. But those are all of the books that I ended up picking up for the fall season, and I'm so happy with all of my choices. I cannot wait to finally organize my TBR cart so that way they can look all nice and pristine and less cluttered, and also finally give some of these books a read in the near future. I don't know what it is about fall in particular. It might be the ambiance, it might be the coziness, and just wanting to be wrapped up in the house with a blanket. I'm not sure, but I just feel like fall is a great season for reading, and reading a lot. So yeah, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me my channel out. And lastly, please make sure you follow me on Bookstagram as well as Storygraph. I will leave all of that information linked down below, as well as at the end of the video like I always do. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!